It's not the loud one you should fear, not the man who yells, but the one who doesn't blink while you burn. Arguments aren't won through volume. They're stolen in silence. Every time you speak in rage, you reveal your strategy. Every time you defend yourself, you admit you've been touched. But the cold mind, it dismantles without ever raising a weapon. It watches you flail, then says one sentence that shatters everything you thought you believed. This isn't about conflict resolution. This is about becoming untouchable. In a world built on ego traps and verbal ambushes, you don't win arguments by being right. You win them by remaining unbreakable. You win by saying less and controlling more. This isn't motivation. This is psychological conditioning, a method used by interrogators, emotional assassins, and leaders who never lose control. If you're here to feel empowered, leave now. If you're here to take control without ever lifting your voice, keep listening, because once this trick embeds in your mind, you'll never argue the same way again. Tactic 1. The verbal graveyard. Let's build this in layers. You're in a room. The energy is electric. Someone, maybe a colleague, a sibling, or a partner, is coming at you with accusation and heat. They're speaking loudly, fast, hoping to push you into a corner. You've seen this before. You know the setup. The average person, they argue back, defend, justify, they react, but not you. You keep your eyes locked. Your shoulders are still. Your breath slow. They accuse you of something. Twisting facts, emotionally charging the air with words meant to pull you in. And instead of answering, you pause. A long pause, the kind of silence that burns. Not because you're speechless, but because you're calculating. You hold that silence like a blade in your mouth. Your stillness becomes the most violent response in the room. They feel it. Then you speak, but not to react, not to defend, not to fight. You say, "Is that what you believe?" Simple, but surgical. Suddenly, the power shifts. They're no longer the aggressor. They're on trial. That single sentence throws their entire momentum into a pit. It forces them to justify rather than attack, to explain, to scramble, to fill the silence that's now a noose. And all you do is watch, expressionless, unshaken. It is in this moment they realize they cannot beat someone who refuses to play the emotional game. Execution, emotional detachment. As soon as the argument begins, silence your internal dialogue. No defense, no emotional reactivity. You're not here to prove anything, only to expose. Stillness, stop moving. No nodding, no nervous tics. Let your body radiate the stillness of someone who's already decided. You won't fight on their terms. Silence, wait, longer than what feels comfortable. Let it drag. People interpret silence as judgment. The longer you wait, the more their ego starts screaming for validation. Choose one, cold and empty. That's one version. Interesting. Is that what you believe? Okay. These are not replies. They are psychological landmines. Ask a direct question that shifts the lens. Why are you trying to get a reaction from me? Do you feel better now? These remove you from the defense and force them to reflect. Often with confusion or self-consciousness, do not continue. Let them hang. If they push again, loop back to stillness. Eventually, they will burn out or emotionally fold. Fear conditioning. You become a mirror. Their outburst reflects only on them. They feel exposed. They lose control. Ego collapse. Most arguments are about dominance. But when you don't argue, their ego finds nothing to dominate. It spirals. That's when they start crumbling. Frame control. The loudest voice usually wins. Until it meets the coldest presence, you hijack the frame not with words, but with restraint, cognitive dissonance. They expect noise. You give silence. That mismatch forces their brain to reassess. They no longer trust their own strategy. Alpha positioning. Emotional control is dominance. You appear higher status because your emotions aren't hijacked by theirs. This tactic makes you dangerous. But danger is a double-edged sword. Once people realize you're unshakable, they may stop trying to connect. You'll become untouchable, but also unreachable. People will say you're cold, hard to talk to, and emotionally distant. Because silence doesn't just kill arguments, it kills intimacy too. So use this like a scalpel, not a hammer. Win the war, but don't forget the cost of isolation. Tactic 2, the oracle veil. You're in a conflict with someone dangerous. They hide knives behind smiles. They're unpredictable, emotionally volatile, subtly cruel. But you You walk in not to defend, but to foresee. You sit across from them and say something like, "You strike me as the kind of person who doesn't explode until the exact moment it ruins everything. I know your type. You let people think they're safe, then you shatter them with silence. Or worse, charm. You don't accuse them. You prophesy them. You paint a picture of the exact psychological patterns they use, not in the past tense, but the future. Not you did this, but this is what you will do. And here's the mind trick: you speak it so calmly, so coldly, with such eerie precision that they begin to believe it's not a guess, it's a curse. And what the human brain fears most, it tries to control. So how does the mind control a prophecy? By fulfilling it. They start doing exactly what you predicted. Why? Because if it was inevitable, at least they had the illusion of power in choosing it. You didn't threaten them. You didn't warn them. You foretold them. And now they're spiraling, trying to keep up with a future they didn't choose, but feel owned by. Self-fulfilling prophecy principle. People subconsciously adopt identities others assign them, especially when those identities are dark, unsettling, and strangely familiar. Fear is destiny. The human psyche tries to escape unpredictable pain. So when you describe a painful destiny in detail, the brain often leans toward it to regain a sense of control, even if it's destructive. Cognitive entrapment. When you describe someone's behavior with high, detailed future accuracy, it traps their internal narrative. Now, any emotional reaction they have becomes a step toward fulfilling your words. Imposed archetype theory. You assign them a psychological role. The betrayer, the manipulator, the silent, and once the label is accepted, behavior aligns to match. Warning, this is not persuasion. It's psychological scripting. You're writing someone's inner monologue before they even think it. And once that voice gets in, it's hard to turn off. Used wrongly, it can push unstable individuals into breakdowns, violence, or permanent identity damage. You can make someone destroy a relationship they secretly valued. You can trigger their worst instincts, then walk away untouched, knowing you never laid a hand. This is prophecy, not power. It doesn't command behavior. It infects it. Use it with cold precision, and walk away before they start asking, "How did you know exactly what I'd become?" Tactic 3, the Lazarus Q. You're speaking with someone whose strength is fake. They walk tall, laugh loud, flex confidence. But you see the glitch. They avoid one topic like fire, the thing that changed them, broke them, shaped their cruelty. You don't ask them what it is. You hand them a mirror that only they can shatter. You say something like, "You strike me as someone who remembers what you shouldn't, but pretends you forgot." And that's exactly why you scare people. Suddenly silence. Their eyes tighten. Their posture stiffens. Something just cracked. Because you didn't say what happened. You said enough to make them fill in the rest. And what happens next is savage. They start talking, as if you asked, as if they've been dying to explain. They pour it out, piece by piece, like vomiting poison they didn't know was still inside them. Why? Because your Lazarus Q reanimated a ghost they tried to bury, and when pain returns from the dead, the brain wants to either run or talk, and talking feels like control. So they talk and reveal more than they ever planned. You just watched someone stab themselves, while thanking you for the knife. Execution. Spot the ghost, look for the trauma they never mention but always orbit, the pattern they repeat but never name. Drop the Lazarus Q. Deliver a 1-2 sentence reflection that is half-formed, not a question, not a full accusation, just a chilling almost truth. Example. The people who smile like you usually do it to make sure no one asks what happened. Let silence work. Don't fill the gap. Their mind is spinning. They're not talking to you. They're debating themselves. Hold eye contact, no sympathy. The goal is emotional autopsy, not comfort. Let them reveal it once they begin. Say nothing personal. Just, "I figured. I've seen it before." That makes sense. You're not shocked. You're not moved. You're confirming their ghost existed. Displaced catharsis. People avoid raw memories unless given a safe leak. Your cue provides just enough ambiguity to trigger that leak without force. Emotional confession loop. When someone thinks they chose to open up, they feel pride in revealing pain. They bond to the person who let them. You authority via recognition. By describing a wound they never told you about, you gain mythic level credibility in their mind, like you see through time. Involuntary memory activation. Human memory is linked to suggestion, emotion. You trigger their own mind to walk into the trauma without directions. Now they trust you. They think you understand. They feel safe, exposed, but relieved. But here's the Lazarus curse. They now associate that wound with you forever. And if you choose to disappear, ignore, or emotionally ghost them, they don't just feel rejected, they feel rebroken, worse than the first time. Why? Because this time, they chose to open the coffin and you watch them bleed. With your hands clean, tactic 4, the mirror collapse. You're speaking to someone who always plays the protector, or the leader, or the good one. They're composed, rational, always in control. But control is performance, and performance is crack when you shift the mirror just enough. You remind me of someone who's always rescuing everyone else, because they know no one would ever come for them. Boom. Not an insult, not a compliment, just a reflection they weren't ready for. They go silent. You just introduced a version of themselves. They recognize, but hate, execution. Observe their hero habit. What role do they need to be seen as? The wise one, the fixer, the martyr. Shift the mirror. Drop a one-line observation that slightly twists that identity. It should imply they're doing it for survival, not nobility. Don't justify. Let it land. Their mind will run loops. Is that true? Is that how I look? Am I pretending? This is where the collapse begins. Confirm without consoling, say. I don't mean it as judgment. I've just seen that face before, in the mirror. Now the reflection isn't just about them. It's shared pain. That's why it sticks. Ego disruption. People feel safe behind their chosen image. When you reflect a warped version of it, it shatters their false safety. Projection reversal. Instead of them projecting strength, you force them to see the desperation behind it. Mirror neuron triggering. By making the reflection mutual. I've seen it too. You trigger vulnerability instead of defensiveness. Warning. Once you've used mirror collapse, their trust in their own mask weakens. They may become emotionally dependent, seeing you as the only one who sees the real them. If you pull away after this moment, their identity doesn't just crack, it fragments. Because when you break someone's mirror, they start searching for the face that shattered it. Outro. You don't rise through power by collecting tricks. You rise by killing the part of yourself that hesitates to use them. And maybe you've already done that. Maybe, somewhere between the first tactic and the last, you stopped asking, is this right? And started asking, does it work? That's the silent transformation. Not loud, not theatrical, just a quiet shift in your operating system, from human to something else, from understood to unpredictable. Now here's the part they never teach. Once you gain control of others, you also lose the right to be innocent. Because every move after this is tainted with intent. Every silence is a strategy. Every word becomes a weapon. So if you walk away now, you'll keep the illusion that you're still you. But if you keep watching, if you go deeper into this mental abyss, there's no going back. Because somewhere ahead, you'll face a moment where someone's pain becomes your convenience. And you'll have to decide, will you pull back or tighten the grip? That answer won't come from who you think you are. It'll come from what you've already become. And here's the cliff. Some doors unlock you, others replace you.